Welcome back to Heal, Healing, Empowering, Accepting, and Living, a podcast sponsored by Change by Fire. So grateful to have you with us as we continue to explore the concept of identity and what makes you, you. I am Jen Severance, burn survivor extraordinaire, and
Best intro ever. My name is Lori Janik, and I am a 15-year burn advocate, social worker, and current holistic trauma therapist.
extraordinaire.
So just a recap of our last episode, we've been exploring our season 6 around identity. And our last episode, we talked about, that inner stuffing, that inner part of your identity and what really makes that up. Your values, your beliefs, your culture, how you're raised, and just exploring, what your sense of fit is on the outside and on the inside, and how a trauma or an injury can affect your external identity at times, and how we can move towards resetting that internal identity. So, how have you used that I am tool that we shared at the end? How are you valuing your internal character traits and reminding you that you are still you in spite of life hurdles and changes? We would love to hear about your experiences.
Yes.
Today, we're exploring yet another episode around finding identity, mere time. So, what happens when we get to see and notice our own reflection?
Mm-hmm.
Let's step into our own looking glass of self. Let's get healing.
So let's talk about our morning habits. What are some of those initial things that you do to start off your day? What do you do in the morning when you get yourself
Oh,
out of bed?
man. The mornings are probably my favorite times. I like to get up. I actually like to immediately go to the bathroom and splash cold water on my face. That kind of helps refresh, kind of get me out of whatever dream, nightmare, whatever happened in the evening time. And then I like to, have some cold water. Sometimes I'll sit down and read a book. A lot of mindfulness work I try to get started on in the morning. You?
I should do more of that for sure. Oh yeah, I'm briefly in the bathroom for my toothbrushing and all that stuff, but coffee is super important. And I've gotten in the habit of taking the dogs out like religiously. We go to the park every morning,
Ooh.
so I get out into nature a little bit, and then I start like the shower and everything afterwards to get my day going. But yeah, get myself outside is the big thing for me. Yep.
Well, so for me, I start with a little bit of stepping into and a brief look in the mirror while I'm washing my
Yeah.
face.
Mm-hmm.
And for you, there's a little bit of time later, but
Yes. But for most of us, looking in the mirror is a natural start to our morning, right? To get ready, we're washing our face, brushing our teeth, evaluating our appearance before we head to work or school. In the mirror, we can view ourselves from a different visual field. Like we can turn our body side to side, move closer, or move farther back. We can play with our image in a sense and notice any shifts or changes of over the days of, as you're observing. So the mirror can be a space of play, but do you always find it that way?
I think like that for me, I mean, like that's an interesting gauge of how much you can do and what you can do and use in a mirror, but what do we always do with that?
Hmm.
Do we have a sense of play and I'm going to try on this makeup or I'm going to try and undo this or I'm going to kind of make faces in the mirror? Or do we look, oh man, I'm getting another pimple. There's a wrinkle there. Like, oh, that scar is getting bigger. So
Yeah.
do we always use it for that intention? Or is it sometimes something that's a more fearful space to step into?
Right. Is it positive? Is it negative? Does it depend on our day?
Mm. That as well too. And mirrors, why we're talking about mirrors with regards to identity, I mean, mirrors are an aspect of how we see ourselves. It's an
Hmm.
outward perception of kind of maybe what we see on the inside. And mirrors can really clue us into our sense of ourself in our body and any comfort or discomfort that we might have around that, around our appearance, around our body image, around any changes that we've noticed. And a lot of times we as human beings will hyperfixate
Mm.
on things that we don't like, our perceived sense of flaws, things that have changed or are different. And so we can really struggle looking at the mirror and noticing our appearance. We can have a lot of shame or negative feelings around how we perceive ourselves and our body, especially if we've had any changes over time.
Mhm.
Disclaimer, we're human beings. We are going to change on a day to day basis no matter what. But if
Yes.
we see ourselves bigger, smaller, our scars look worse, look better, our features have changed, there's any differences in our appearance that we don't like, that can affect what we take in and how we see it. So many burn and trauma survivors, especially, can struggle with facing a mirror after an injury. Seeing yourself in a mirror can make that trauma just even more real
Mm.
and reality. And there's even a phrase in the recovery world called mirror trauma.
Mm.
So, mirror trauma basically means that when we have a sense of shock or severe discomfort around what we're seeing in the
Mm.
mirror, especially if there is a perceived dramatic difference or change than what we've noticed before. And often, facing the mirror, seeing the mirror is a part of recovery work. It is a part of, the hospital for some people towards the end of a hospital stay or early rehabilitation. And how this facing the mirror happens can really affect your level of acceptance, awareness, and movement towards seeing and understanding yourself
Mm.
in your body post injury.
Sure.
So, Jen, what do you remember of your initial experience kind of looking through the looking glass, per se,
Mm.
after your injury?
So it's interesting because, like, gosh, my experience was so physical because, as you guys know, if you've listened to previous episodes, my burn came from fainting,
Mhm.
and we weren't able to diagnose the fainting disorder until we got through with fixing the burn.
Mhm.
And when I got back from the hospital, I still hadn't diagnosed the fainting, and we would take me into the bathroom, into the shower. And when you're a new burn survivor, you're still wearing these gauze garments, and you have to pull them off and then
Mhm.
debride the burn. So you're rubbing a cloth down. It's pretty. Ugh. Um, but when we'd unravel, and it's well, sounds metaphorical, we'd unravel, the gauze off, and I would look at that skin. That
Mm.
fainting response would happen.
Hmm.
So, I haven't fainted a lot since my burn, but right after my burn, I was having a physical response to seeing what my skin looked like right after the burn. It was very traumatic,
Mhm.
and it's almost like an out of body. You're like, "Whose skin is that? This
Mm.
this doesn't look like my skin."
You went to a state of disconnect because it was
Yes.
that dangerous for you to see.
Yeah.
And it felt safer to see it sort of the outside looking in than to see it as a part of you.
Yeah, yeah, it was very discombobulating. I mean,
Mm.
yeah, you really look. I mean, we'll get into it in this episode, but you look at yourself and go, "Hey, what is that? This is not what I'm used to seeing in
Mm.
the mirror."
How were you prepared to see what you saw, or were you prepared to see? Because that's another aspect when you see your burns and when you see yourself in the mirror and any
Yeah,
perceived changes, sometimes we can have a preparation towards that. This is what happened, this is how it looked, this is how it's healing, and sometimes
yeah.
we don't. What was that like for you?
Well, you would think, I would have been a little more prepared. I'm such a chill kind of person,
That's a truth.
and I was more sort of fascinated about the medical side of the burn process. We documented the daily changes in my skin through photographs, and so
Mm.
I really knew what each step of the healing process looked like. Um, but in those early days, I don't think anyone can be prepared
Mm,
because you've lived a lifetime of looking into the mirror or looking down at your body and seeing what you see, however your body looked
mhm.
before your burn. And so I don't think there's any real good preparation.
It's never gonna be
No.
100% in terms of you can immediately accept it because it's gonna be
Yes.
different. But I
Hmm.
love what it sounds like you did with photographs.
Hmm.
In some ways, you simulated a little bit of a mirror
Oh,
response.
yeah.
So you got to see some of the changes. When you saw it, there was still an affect,
Hmm.
but I would be curious if it would be different if you didn't have that level of
Yeah.
preparation.
Seriously, because it was one way of going through the healing process.
Mhm.
And the good thing about taking photos throughout the process is later on when I'm going, "Oh my god, this is taking so long. Why is it taking so long?" And then I'd look back on some photos from a
Mm.
few months ago and be like, "Oh my gosh, I have
Mhm.
come so much further than I thought I had."
So there's such a value in documentation of your healing to
I
really
felt like
address
it,
like
yeah.
when you question, I'm in this stuck place and
Mhm.
space in terms of healing, in terms of recovery,
Yeah,
you can circle back and see where you're at before and
absolutely.
prove to yourself that there
Yeah.
has been a
Wow,
shift.
look how far I've come, right?
What for you, how are mirrors for you now? How is it like for you now when you look in the mirror, when you notice your scars, when you notice any perceived changes?
Um, after some time, and it's been what, 8 years? I don't know. I stopped counting. Math is hard. But it's been many years now, and you begin to, it's yourself. And the further you go down your path, the more it's like, oh, this is my body.
Mm,
So I've definitely become much more accepting of the changes.
mhm,
Sometimes, pictures will pop up on Instagram or Facebook, and I'll see my old legs and go, "Oh, wow, that's." And there's a little wistful, like, "Oh, wow, look at how nice my legs looked." But that's the old me. We
mm,
evolve, and so
mhm,
looking in the mirror, I'm fully accepting of the way it is now.
mhm,
And there's still a little wee bit of I'm wearing shorts today, and people are gonna know that I'm a burn survivor, or people are gonna see my
mhm.
physical differences. Um, but yeah, looking in the mirror, I'm still me.
Sounds like you've really embraced all of the parts of you that have brought you to here.
Yes, absolutely. Whatever happens in your life, um, most of the time I wouldn't want to change any of it because it brings me to who I am now, who I
Mm,
really like me now.
talking about identity. And when it comes to mirrors, I think for anyone, whether you've had an injury or not, there's a wanting and a not wanting to face to look at yourself in the mirror. Before you even look at a mirror, and this is just some interesting educational factor, you actually pre anticipate and form a picture in your mind's eye of what you're going to see.
Yeah.
So we have this preconceived picture of, what I'm going to see when I look in there. And so then when you go and look in the mirror, then you have another picture. So it's that actual picture of what you see and that picture in your mind's eye. And depending on how different they are,
Mhm.
usually is what affects our response. And depending on how safe we feel in our bodies, determines how well we can deal with the differences. So, if there's a big change between what you think you might look like and how
Mhm.
you actually see yourself in the mirror, that can create a big sense of danger in your body. And that really is what affects those danger responses where we go
Mm.
into shock, separation, disillusion, immobilization, or we go into kind of like fear, anger, upset. So, those are those danger
Mm.
responses in our body. And really, what we want to move towards in healing is a sense of what you have right now, which is what I call embodiment, more of a sense of safety ourselves in our body with what we see and with how we are. It's reclaiming that experience of being in one's body and it being safe.
Yeah. Well, and in a traumatic injury, as some of us have experienced, and all of the changes surrounding that, our autonomic nervous system often takes a hit, which I know I've had certain experiences where, like with pain, for instance, I'm like, oh, I need to pick something up off the floor. And I want to go get it, but my body's like, don't do that. It'll
Mhm.
hurt.
It's like your
Like,
body stops you before you even make
yeah.
that
And that's
action.
that's our autonomic system. It's
Mhm.
breathing. Your body's like, I'm breathing in and out. You don't have to think about it. But sometimes it stops you in your tracks. And,
Mhm.
wanting to protect ourselves, we can move toward one of our defensive pathways,
Mm-hmm.
and either fight or flight or immobilize, freeze up to the situation. And often this happens outside of our conscious awareness.
Mm-hmm.
And that immobilizing response in our systems is meant to protect us amidst danger, life-threatening situations. And it can often detach us and
Mm-hmm.
dissociate us from our bodies. And that fight or flight response in our system can often create very strong feelings and overwhelm, pushing us towards a need for action, right?
Mm-hmm.
And noticing this effect, imagine how looking into the mirror after a trauma could affect us and our biologically wired danger responses,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Because think about it, too. I mean, like if you have an accident and there's a lengthy road of healing
Mm-hmm.
and like the dressing changes, the therapies, the level of potential devastation wreaked
Mm-hmm.
on your body, but you have no interaction with seeing yourself, no mirror time, your picture of how it could be is getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So the danger response you're building here is huge. And then when you actually see it,
Hmm.
I can almost guarantee you your level of mismatch is going to really activate that response where you, in that danger response in building, can be angry, can be upset, can want to fight, can want to run away from it. I don't want to
Yeah.
look in the mirror. I don't want to see myself. Or you can just detach. This isn't my body anymore. I don't claim it. I don't want it. I don't own it.
Yeah.
We can have a lot of responses around that. So, really having that opportunity, and that's what I'm going to phrase it as opportunity, to come to terms with seeing yourself in the mirror with our outer identities, our outer perceptions of us, so that we have less of that mirror trauma is such a big part of healing. We want to mitigate the danger here.
Yep.
And so, a few things that might assist you in your own healing journey, in your own self awareness and recognition and recovery after trauma. We're going to give you a few tips, a few ideas of integrating some mirror time
Yay.
amidst your day. So, one big tip is going to be educating yourself, educating your partner, educating your family, your care providers about how mirrors work and about potential responses to what you see and how you might react. About affects in short and long term, if you don't have that mirror time, if you don't have that opportunity to face and see yourself as you are, and movement towards understanding and maybe integrating some mirror work in the context of your recovery.
Yeah. You can integrate and offer mirrors in small steps throughout your healing. A small handheld mirror to look at your wounds after a dressing change or during a dressing change. A mirror to look at your physical therapy movement and how you're mobilizing. That's actually really good to see and visualize
Mm-hmm.
how you're doing with that. I had to work on my gait, on how I was walking. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and there's even this response where you keep limping when you don't need to be limping, So having a mirror in that respect is very good for sure. Um, a mirror to look at the portions of your face if it's affected, to allow for visual exploration and reconnecting to yourself.
And disclaimer too, as well, about mirrors and mirrors involved in hospital settings. That's always a conversation with your care team. There might be some limitations around how much mirror access you have. However, as an individual in doing the healing work, you yourself have an opportunity to advocate for you in order to
Yes.
best propel and promote your own recovery. And we really want to use a lot of gentleness and kindness when we're facing that mirror. And this goes for you yourself. This goes for care providers. Goes for those in the healing team. Gentle kindness that can be found in your tone, that can be found in your facial expressions, that can be found in how you bring safety into the situation. So, three big things can be very helpful with establishing safety and working with someone and working with yourself. Context, so your understanding of what's going on and all of what's going on. choice, having an opportunity to choose in any aspect of your own healing work and in life, and then connection, having a
Mm.
moment of connection with whoever's involved in the process. So having the opportunity to choose, okay, do I want to do a little bit of my prayer work in the morning or later in the evening? Do I want to choose who do I want to have with me to support myself in this process? Making sure you're also choosing times where maybe you're in a safer response in your body. So maybe in the midst of a dressing change that's really difficult might not be the greatest time because I'm feeling a lot of danger here. But when I'm done with all my therapies and I'm feeling like I'm settling a little bit more in the day and I'm more
Mhm.
of that reflective, that safer body tone, I might feel a little bit better prepared. Um, and just noticing as well too, I think again with that gentleness and compassion, the more opportunity you have to see and face yourself over time, your memory up here of what you see or what you think you're going to see and what you see in the mirror are going to start matching up.
Mhm.
So you're going to start reconnecting with that real sense of identity and it's going to normalize. Your perception is going to match more of the reality of what you see.
Sure. And you can allow for environmental supports as you face yourself in the mirror, opting, like you said, for an environment of that greater perceived safety. So we can have nice soft lighting, calming
Mhm.
breaths, opportunities for a soft, safer setting, silence, and the loving presence of maybe the loving people in your family. My dogs, for
I was gonna
instance.
say, even your animals,
Oh
and
gosh, yes. They have
people
such
don't
a calming presence.
when
Yeah.
people don't realize how important that can be
Mhm.
when we're refacing ourselves or just facing ourselves after an injury or any time, the people or the environment around you,
Yeah,
how much it can affect what you perceive.
absolutely.
And we're trying to really build that into mere time daily. So if you can daily bring in some time where you're looking at you, where
Yeah.
you're looking at your scar, where you're looking at parts of you, and you're building a sense of awareness and rebuilding a sense of identity and match between what you expect and what you see. You're finding a sense of understanding and acceptance in how you see yourself.
Yeah.
And what you see in that mirror is so directly interconnected with that autonomic nervous system. So that's, your body's wired responses.
Yes.
So why working with a mirror can help you support your return to a sense of safety inside and out. And for our takeaway today, what we're going to do is we're actually going to do a little bit of mirror work. We actually kind of look in a mirror every time we do our podcast recording. We literally have like a screen in front of us so we can see on a regular basis like ourselves. And it's been such a, I think, like safety and awareness and just identity building feature for ourselves as well too in
Mhm.
this. And again, benefits of mirror work. Why should you do this? Why might it be good to look at yourself on the regular? Well, the more you come to terms with what you look and how you look at, and that do a bit of that mirror work and response, your self esteem
Mm.
is improving. Your sense of emotions, connection with your emotions starts to get more clear. You're more aware of what's going on, yourself, your body, inside and outside. Your sense of love and compassion for you starts to strengthen. The anxiety and stress that most human beings that I know of tend to have around their image and their body,
Yep.
it's better. You start to communicate and just greater connect with how you see you. And you're building in a really mindful routine of you being in your body that really empowers how you see you. So, our mirror takeaway today is you're going to find a comfortable space wherever that is. Now, if you have a handheld mirror, for some people, like a little handheld mirror works really well in just starting with mirror time. You might not have that option, and maybe it's the mirror in the bathroom. Most people that I know of at least have a mirror in the bathroom in the
Mirror in
context.
the bathroom. Sorry, I had to.
So, finding a mirror that works for you.
Yes.
And first, when you get yourself into the context of your mirror, you're going to take a moment just to get your body into a more comfortable place. Now, that meaning Our body tends to enter a state of safety when our heart rate lowers to that 60 to 80 beats a minute, when our breath deepens, when our tension gets a little bit lessened in our body. So take a moment to just take some breaths. Maybe you have your hand over your heart like me. Maybe you don't. You're noticing where you hold any tension in your body and just relaxing. I tend to hold my
Yes.
shoulders constantly up here, and so I have to remind myself we're safe, we're okay. And you're going to take a look, make some eye contact with what you see in your mirror. And just hold and notice that eye contact. Now, keyword here being you're noticing. We're noticing, we're observing. Noticing is different than judging and different than critiquing. Just hold and notice that eye contact. And maybe you start speaking or thinking some affirmations of meaning or value of what you see. My eyes look really bright today. I have a really nice smile. That scar is softening a little bit here. Just being present and notice what you notice. Anything may be happening on the inside as you notice. What it's like to notice and verbalize what you see on the outside. And reflecting on what you see as you maintain that eye contact for just a little bit longer. Being patient and kind with that you in the mirror. And when you're ready, you can step away from that mirror. Or you can close or put down whatever mirror you have. What was it like to just spend a moment or two looking at yourself, looking at your image? What did you notice, Jen?
Well, that's a good habit to get into.
Mm-hmm.
Like we were talking about getting ready for work and such, and it's usually we're improving, from getting out of bed, and we're improving what we're looking at. So it's good to look in the mirror and start with the positive things instead of starting off with, "Oh my God, I'm a wreck. I need to get ready."
Well, and you may see those too. And
Yeah.
again, if you're noting and observing as far as, oh, my eyes look really tired today.
Yeah.
I'm developing these just chronic wrinkles around like my forehead or you can notice that, but there's a difference between noticing and criticizing.
Yeah.
There's also a valuing thing with noticing what you see in the mirror. If you're noticing something that could be perceived negative, can you notice something else that could be perceived positive?
Yes, and that's that mindfulness,
Mm-hmm.
to be mindful when you're looking in the mirror and to add this kind of practice into the time that you spend looking at yourself, to be sure that you're saying positive things.
Mm-hmm. And
Yeah.
just really noticing this is an opportunity for you to notice any shift toward
Mm,
healing. And that I think is a
yeah,
very valuing thing.
good.
So we love getting to do these podcast episodes with you. And Changed by Fire and our mission here is really to help support burn survivors and those who care and provide for them in a positive manner with opportunities to connect and heal in a variety of alternative healing modalities. We connect people to healing support such as scar massage, such as yoga, such as pressure garments, such as hypnotherapy, equine therapy, and beyond. Um, and how to get in contact with us, you can reach us at www.changedbyfire.org. We have a variety of special events on the radar. We have our annual Equine Healing Day in November. We have our first backyard concert fundraiser in
Woohoo!
October. And we're just building a lot of special things ahead. So if you're interested in giving us a follow and maybe receiving some service supports, especially here in the Arizona area, in being a guest on our podcast
Yes.
or a host, please reach out to us. Again, it's www.changebyfire.com.
Yes. So we finish up every episode with our acronym for the podcast, HEAL. So let's go there. H, have a look at yourself in the mirror. E, engage in building embodiment, feeling yourself in your own body. A, allow yourself to affirm. Look, it's a double A. Allow
Allow and
yourself
affirm.
to affirm who you are and still are. And L, let yourself linger. It's another double. Let yourself linger as you further learn to love.
Triple L.
Oh my God, we're going crazy on the acronym today. To learn to love and see you. You are worth every moment. So we'll see you soon on our next episode.
See you next time.
Bye.